You said you wanted to help me. Where are you? Step into the dark, with 20 terrifying horror movies you probably haven't seen, but absolutely should. From pulse-pounding scares to twisted tales of terror, these chilling picks will crawl into your mind, and stay there. Number 20. Head count. A weekend getaway among college friends in the desert turns into a nightmare. When one of them reads an odd website chant and inadvertently summons a shape-shifting creature known as the Heist G. As the group splinters into paranoia and fear, the entity begins to mimic and replace them, one by one, blurring the line between ally and monster. In a terrifying game of identity and survival, set in sun-bleached isolation and creeping tension, the film transforms what should have been youthful celebration into a bleak combat of mirrors and uncertainty. Head count is a chilling modern camp horror that thrives on the quiet terror of not knowing who is still you. Number 19. Spoonful of sugar.
It's the most important thing.
A graduate student named Millicent takes a semester off to babysit a severely allergic, non-verbal boy named Johnny, only to find the job is a gateway into a surreal, psychosexual nightmare. What starts as thesis work on childhood allergies turns into a tangled obsession. Millicent begins microdosing LSD, slipping into hallucinations while trying to replace Johnny's distant mother, and flirt with his carpentry-obsessed father. As boundaries warp and darker secrets surface, the facade of the perfect family cracks, and Millicent is drawn deeper into a vortex of manipulation, power, and twisted nurture. Director Mercedes Bryce Morgan crafts a hallucinogenic domestic horror that unsettles not with monsters, but with the distortion of the familiar. Number 18. Alpha. When 13-year-old Alpha returns home from school sporting a fresh tattoo, she and her physician mother have no idea. The mark signals the beginning of a devastating illness, one that turns victims into crumbling statues of marble. A mysterious plague preys on the margins of society. As Alpha grapples with quarantine, stigma, and an uncle dying of addiction, her mother must fight institutional denial and deep-rooted prejudice to protect her daughter and the life she knows. Set against the washed-out palette of 1980s Normandy, the film amplifies the rising dread of an invisible contagion, with physical consequences. Directed by Julia Ducournau, this unsettling body horror drama probes identity, illness, and love in extremis. Number 17. Exhibit A.
I am not the only one with secrets.
You'd do anything for me, my dad.
A seemingly typical British family decides to film the purchase of their dream home. But as financial pressures mount, the father's ambition spirals into paranoia, and the daughter's camcorder becomes the only witness to their descent into horror. With each recording, the facade cracks. A father desperate for promotion, a mother worn thin, a daughter increasingly alienated behind the lens. Presented entirely as found footage, the film treats the camera not as a tool, but as a silent observer of disintegration, making the horror disturbingly intimate. Directed by Dom Rotheroe, Exhibit A is a quiet yet unrelenting unraveling of domestic catastrophe, extremis. Number 16. The Green Inferno.
Why are they doing this? What are they gonna do to us?
A driven college freshman named Justine joins a radical student activism group, bound for the Amazon, to livestream a protest against rainforest destruction, only to see their idealism crash, literally, into a nightmare. When their plane goes down, the group falls into remote tribal territory, What seemed like a good-intentioned rescue mission morphs into a merciless fight for survival amid cannibalistic rites. The film traps youthful arrogance and environmental advocacy in a grim spiral of violence and moral collapse. Every step into activism becomes a step into the unknown. Directed by Eli Roth, The Green Inferno is an unrelenting descent into jungle horror with no easy escape. Number 15, Morgan.
She had a tantrum.
A corporate risk management specialist named Lee Weathers is dispatched to a remote bioengineering facility after a violent incident involving a mysterious humanoid subject known only as Morgan, born just 5 years ago, yet deceptively human in form and intelligence. Morgan has already exceeded expectations and now threatens everything. As Lee delves into the facility's secrets, she uncovers ethical collapse, a weaponized creation, and the terrifying question of whether Morgan is just a project or something with its own will. Directed by Luke Scott, Morgan is a brittle, clinical horror about creation, autonomy, and what it means to be human. Number 14, Grotesque. A young couple out on their first date are abruptly abducted and wake to find themselves bound in a stark subterranean chamber at the mercy of a refined yet sadistic doctor whose interest lies not in escape but in a merciless and escalating game of pain. The captor alternates surgical detachment with callous torment, treating wounds while forcing the pair to endure mutilation, sexual assault, and degradation in a nightmare ritual that leaves no refuge. What sets this horror apart is its complete refusal of narrative relief. There's almost no backstory, only unrelenting agony, inducing a feeling of helplessness and moral collapse. The film is a brutal exploration of pure torment, designed as a visceral assault on the viewer, about creation, autonomy, and what it means to be human. Number 13, Splice.
What did you expect when you made it? Didn't you have a plan?
You can't let her out. Specimens need to be contained.
Don't call her that.
What's going on?
Two ambitious genetic engineers, Clive and Elsa, push the boundaries of science by fusing human and animal DNA. They unleash a rapidly evolving hybrid creature, Dren, whose instincts spiral far beyond their control. As the project becomes a twisted parent-child nightmare, the scientists find themselves trapped between ambition and morality. In a corrupt lab, in an isolated farmhouse, they confront violations of nature, ethics, and sanity. The film blends sleek biotech thriller visuals with visceral body horror and a mounting sense of unleashing something monstrous. In the Name of Progress, directed by Vincenzo Natali, Splice is a chilling push into the darkest possibilities of human curiosity. Number 12, The Seasoning House. In the twilight of the Balkan conflict, a mute and deaf orphan named Angel is abducted and forced into servitude at a brutal brothel known as the Seasoning House. Here, kidnapped girls are drugged, exploited, and discarded by soldiers, while Angel toils behind the scenes, applying makeup, administering sedatives, cleaning up horror. She secretly navigates the house's crawl spaces, forging a bond with another captive girl, and kindling a burning need for vengeance. As the militia leader who slaughtered her family returns, the walls of the house contract into a trap of twisted power, revenge, and survival. Directed by Paul Hyatt, The Seasoning House is a merciless psychological horror that haunts with its stark realism. Number 11, Men Behind the Sun. In the final year of World War II, A group of Japanese youth conscripted into the Kwantung Army are dispatched to the infamous Secret Facility Unit 731, where Chinese and Russian prisoners are subjected to horrific experiments. In the name of biological warfare, they witness freezing chambers, vivisections, gas killings, and plague tests. Slowly realizing that the humanity they once took for granted has been stripped away. With its unflinching depiction of historical atrocity, the film becomes a brutal confrontation with the darkest corners of science and obedience. Directed by Tun Fei Mo, Men Behind the Sun is a raw and chilling record of human depravity. Number 10. Girl in a Box. In 1977, 22-year-old Colleen Stan hitches a ride. That turns into a nightmare beyond imagining. She's abducted by a married couple and forced into total submission. Kept in a coffin-sized box beneath their bed for years. Allowed out only to be chained, silenced, and brainwashed into believing she belongs to them. Her captor crafts a twisted world of dominance, manipulation, and isolation, erasing her identity piece by piece. Yet even in darkness, Colleen clings to fragments of hope, waiting for the moment to reclaim her life. Told with harrowing restraint and claustrophobic tension, Girl in a Box is a brutal real-life horror that never loosens its grip. Number 9. The Advent Calendar.
Cette nuit, tu me fous la paix.
A former dancer turned paraplegic, Eva spends her birthday thumbing through pain and memory, until her friend Sophie gives her an antique wooden advent calendar. What seems like a curious holiday trinket soon reveals its grim rules. Open a door, eat the candy, and you're bound. Skip a day, and you'll pay. As the calendar's drawers unleash wishes, horrors, and desperate bargains, Eva inches back toward her old life, but at the cost of deadly consequences for those around her. Director Patrick Ridremont turns a festive symbol into a vessel of dread and sacrifice. Number 8. Sputnik. In the Soviet Union of 1983, 2 cosmonauts return from orbit, but only one survives. The fortunate one, Konstantin, is found to be harboring something impossible. A parasitic organism, living inside him, without his conscious knowledge. Enter neurophysiologist Tatiana Klimova, summoned to a secluded military facility, to probe what went wrong, and what now lurks within the man. What begins as a clinical investigation, morphs into a nightmare of symbiosis, horror, and moral collapse. Sputnik is a bone-cold Soviet sci-fi horror, with its own alien shadow. Number 7. Titane.
Find her, she's not there. Well, let me tell you, the way she acted, the color of her.
After surviving a brutal car crash as a child, Alexia is left with a titanium plate in her skull, and a strange fascination with machines. As an adult, she dances at motor shows, hiding a murderous impulse and an even more disturbing connection to the metal beneath her skin. When a killing spree forces her into hiding, she assumes the identity of a long-lost boy, and is taken in by a grieving firefighter, leading to a bizarre, tender relationship forged in deception, grief, and transformation. Directed by Julia Ducournau, Titane is a haunting, body-shredding experience, where gender, flesh, and machinery collide in a symphony of horror. Number 6. Possessor.
All it takes to lose control.
In a near-future world, elite assassin Tessa Voss uses a high-tech brain implant to hijack other people's bodies and execute kills while her own remains remote. When her latest assignment goes wrong, the layers between host and occupier collapse. Identity fractures. Violence becomes personal, as Tessa's home life, memory, and selfhood unravel. The mission mutates into a claustrophobic showdown of will and flesh. Directed by Brandon Cronenberg, Possessor renders the horror inside the body visible and inescapable. Number 5. The House That Jack Built.
If you feel like screaming, I definitely think you should.
Over a chilling 12-year span, beginning in the late 70s, Jack, a sophisticated, emotionally detached serial killer, commits a series of meticulously orchestrated murders, treating each one as if it were a piece of art. The story unfolds in 5 brutal incidents, during which Jack methodically stalks, manipulates, and destroys his victims, constructing a symbolic house of corpses in his secret freezer. A strange companion named Verge threads through his monologues, as Jack debates morality, creativity, and violence. Directed by Lars von Trier, The House That Jack Built is a descent into the mind of a killer who sees architecture and murder as one. Number 4. The Innocents. When 9-year-old Ida moves into a quiet apartment complex during a long Nordic summer, she discovers that some of the local children harbor abilities far beyond comprehension. Ben can move objects with his mind. Aisha can hear thoughts. And Ida's autistic sister, Anna, begins to awaken to something dark and powerful within herself. What begins as innocent playtime spirals into eerie acts of cruelty and psychic battles in the shadows. While the adults remain oblivious, the line between mischief and supernatural horror vanishes in broad daylight. Directed by Eskil Vogt, The Innocents is a slow-burning nightmare, where childhood curiosity becomes something deeply unsettling. Number 3. Angst. Freshly released from prison, a nameless psychopath, shackled more by his obsessions than his sentence, re-enters society with one goal: to experience the fear reflected in his victims' eyes. He drifts through a cafe, stalks a taxi driver, then breaks into a rural home, and the thin boundary between predator and prey dissolves into quiet horror. Shot through his eyes, every movement, every breath, is suffused with dread. Directed by Gerald Cargill, Angst is raw, unflinching, and entirely complicit in the violence you cannot look away from. Number 2. Town Creek. When Evan's brother mysteriously returns, after disappearing on a hunting trip, the two reunite for a violent mission deep in the rural heart of West Virginia. But what they find is far more sinister than expected. A secluded farm haunted by occult experiments, Nazi rituals, and something monstrous that refuses to die. As the brothers descend into blood-soaked catacombs and forgotten science, they uncover a horrifying truth buried beneath the land. Something ancient, something hungry, something still alive, surrounded by ritual symbols and undead forces. Their journey becomes a desperate battle against an evil that history tried to erase. Directed by Joel Schumacher, Town Creek is a grim and relentless descent into the horrors of forgotten experiments and cursed bloodlines. Number 1. Begotten. No names, no dialogue, no compromise. A wordless black and white descent into mythic annihilation. A robed, bleeding god disembowels himself to birth a harsh, barren world from which a figure drags himself across ash and emptiness, hunted by nomadic shadows in an unending cycle of death and renewal. The stark, distorted imagery creates an otherworldly ritual rather than a conventional plot. forcing viewers into a visceral confrontation with creation, decay, and the human condition. With its hauntingly degraded visuals and near-primitive atmosphere, Begotten transcends typical horror to become a cryptic journey into the void. Directed by Elias Merhige, Begotten stands as a radical, unsettling vision of spectacle and myth. Now you've seen them, but they've seen you too.